Welcome to the District 6 Museum, where we're broadcasting live for our premier debate here on Good Morning Cape Town. Premier and party political representatives. Joining me here with me is the Freedom Front Plus's Corne Mulder, running for Premier. Patricia De Lille, also here for the Good Party. Alan Winde, the incumbent Premier, still running. He's currently in George, so the Democratic Alliance has said its provincial leader, Tertuis Simmers. And joining me also is Nazir Paulsen of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Julius Malema told me not too long ago they're not putting up any Premier candidates because they actually want to do away with provinces. So I'll also interrogate Nazir Paulsen on that. But I'd love your questions. I want you to ask the people who want to be your Premier or leaders in this province why they should vote for you, or why you should vote for them. 021 446 0567. Can drop me a WhatsApp 072 567 1567.
Reflect on Ubuntu Betu as we celebrate 30 years of democracy. Go to primemediaplus.com and ewn.co.za.
3.3 million registered voters in the Western Cape will decide who will govern this province for the next 5 years, whether outright or whether in coalition government. But the Western Cape has always been a dynamic province since 1994. The National Party in government in 1994. After that, a coalition between a partnership between the National Party and the Democratic Alliance. Then the ANC governed from 2004 to 2009, and the Democratic Alliance, the current incumbent party in government, has been governing in this province for the last 15 years. Will they continue? I'll leave that decision up to you on the 29th of May. How our debates will work, I will ask our panelists to give me a 90-second opening remark. After that, I'll ask them some questions. Also, I will play some of the voice notes that have already come in so that you can interact directly with your candidates. To my physical left, I don't know if it's on my ideological left, the Freedom Front Plus's Corne Mulder. Corne, thanks so much for joining us. I'll have you open with your opening remarks. Your 90 seconds start now.
Yes, thank you very much, Lester, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to the listeners. We are entering, today in 3 weeks we will be voting for the election. It's going to be a hectic period, but I think we are all ready to do so. The Freedom Front Plus is a national party. We participate in all 9 provinces and on national level, but in the Western Cape specifically we have also a sub-theme and a sub-manifesto for the Western Cape specifically, and you can bring it under the broad banner that says choose freedom, kies vryheid. Now that can cause all kinds of questions, but from our perspective it's got the dual message here. The one is, the first of all, it would be freedom from what? Freedom from unemployment, freedom from crime, freedom from gang violence, freedom from all the ills that the people in the Western Cape do experience. And we think it's absolutely essential that we focus on these specific issues. The other component obviously is the reality that in the Western Cape there's also a strong feeling in terms of the reality that people would like to see a referendum for the Western Cape people to express themselves in terms of how they would like to take the future of the province forward. The Western Cape is unique, and that's a beautiful reality that we're the only province that has got its own constitution, and I think that is also very important. I believe that in the Western Cape, after this election, we will also enter the reality of coalition governments. And in that instance, the Freedom Front Plus is ready to participate in that process. We will be a constructive opposition because we believe we need to keep the ANC out of government. And specifically in the Western Cape, under no circumstances will we allow the ANC to become part of that.
Corne Mulder, thank you so much. Patricia De Lille, Premier candidate for the Good Party.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Just bring back sad memories. My grandmother lived up the road here in number 39 Tennant Street when they were forcibly removed from here. Lester, many believe or are misled that the Western Cape is working. It might be working for a few, but not for many. And it's time to make it work for many. So we will implement policies that are inclusive. We will deal with the high cost of unaffordable basic services. In the Western Cape, you pay 2% more for electricity 22-23 financial year, they collected more than 330 million rand from the customers in the Western Cape. And we want that money must be paid back. Must be paid back for the people. Instead, they're using ratepayers' money to go to court to take on NERSA. So also, interesting this morning I was reading the Africa check on facts. And what is revealed here, it's all the lies about this well-run province. Many of the findings here, and I'll just give you one. While the latest
Unfortunately, I have to call time. You have to use your time wisely to our panelists here.
I can't talk with this thing on. Must we keep it
when we play your voice notes and questions, and you can put it on. Tertuis Simmers is the leader of the Democratic Alliance in the province, standing in the substitute of Alan Winde, the Premier candidate. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and once again, good morning to all the CapeTalk listeners. And with less than 21 days to what will be the most crucial election since 1994, the voters of the Western Cape will stand before two choices. We have seen 30 years of poor governance at the national level, but there's one province which has been led by an alternative government, which is the Western Cape, for 15 years. And the choices are clear in terms of good governance, the principles of value-based governance, against a government at a national level which has been governing actually this country into the ground. But we have also seen a Western Cape that works for all its people. But what we do acknowledge, and the good party has touched on it, is where we see coalition governments at local government level, of which good are part of, that are failing their people. And some of the attributes which they now try to link to the provincial government actually relates back to provincial government. And yet, where we are a caring government, we seek to work even with those local governments which are now simply time to push their failures onto province. And that is, I think, the distortion of facts which needs to be put on record and corrected for our listeners to understand that every provincial service which we deliver actually works for all, which is why we say the Western Cape works for all its people. And we have ensured that our 7 pledges are realistic. We have programs already in motion. But one of those areas which we do tend to focus on is the devolution of policing, which is a currently a national program failing our people. But we've also introduced interventions to ensure that what we seek to be devolved, we can address already and show the data is there, that it can be successful once devolved to a competent provincial government. And in this case, the City of Cape Town, our partner with the LEAP program as well.
Thank you, Tertuis. Nazir Paulsen of the EFF.
Thank you, Lester. Good morning, Lester. Good morning to fellow panelists and good morning to the listeners. Lester, after 15 years of DA governance in the Western Cape, we have high crime levels, unemployment, a housing backlog of 600,000. So 600,000 families have no dignified home to call their own. 2,000 informal settlements, and in terms of matric results, we've dropped to the bottom 5 nationally. In addition, the DA has redirected R1 billion from health and education to spend on their safety plan, which has not yielded much results. We need a government that is serious about tackling the root causes of the high levels of crime, which is unemployment, inadequate education facilities, poor access to health, which leads to high crime levels. And I think the EFF's policies on industrialization and job creation can go a far way of reducing those social ills. Lester, it isn't rocket science if you have 600,000 housing backlog, you have so many unemployed artisans, that there's just not a government that is using the most essential skill to the best of its ability, the human resources that exist out there.
Patricia De Lille, you say you have unfinished business in this province. You have been a mayor of the city of Cape Town. You have been an MEC for social development in this province under a Democratic Alliance government. In terms of the ills that you talk of as now leader of the Good Party, you were part of an establishment of the Democratic Alliance. What unfinished business do you talk of in this province?
Unfinished business in that many pro-poor programs that were started under my leadership as the mayor has been cancelled and stopped. Let me give you one example. In 2012, we took a decision that while we've got a waiting list of over 600,000 people, the least that we can do as a city is to provide backyarders with services, water, electricity, and a wheelie bin. We rolled it out to many backyarders, and there are many people living in backyards. I was in Elsie's River the other day. I was in Kensington. They've stopped that program because they don't care about the poor. In terms of spatial justice that we are fighting for, I've released more than 18 pieces of land in Woodstock and Salt River, those unfinished breaches in the city of Cape Town, to build affordable housing there. Nothing. Everything has been changed. So they are using people of color as voting fodder. This issue about the independence of the Western Cape, we don't need independence of the Western Cape. We need independence from the DA in the Western Cape. Then we can build an inclusive society. If you look at the high prices of water and electricity, they're overcharging the people. I was in Ottery the other day. I see 3 notification while there were raw sewage coming out of a drain. So they want to govern South Africa, but they can't even see the people very close to them that they don't care about. So they must stop lying. Corruption, the Western Cape and Gauteng is leading in corruption. Leading provinces in corruption. That is Corruption Watch saying that, not me.
Corne Mulder, the Freedom Front Plus, you are running as Premier of the Western Cape, but your party, the Freedom Front Plus, is aligned to a Cape independence movement. Do you want to be Premier of the Western Cape, or do you want to be President of a country as yet no one knows would ever exist?
At this stage, the Western Cape is part of South Africa, and this is a province, and I'm running to become Premier in the Western Cape in 3 weeks from now. Now, the whole idea of self-determination is not a quick fix thing that can happen overnight. It will take some time. It will take a process. From where you've got no self-determination, it can develop to something else. What we are saying at this stage is we should give the opportunity to allow the people in the Western Cape to express themselves specifically in a referendum on that issue. In other words, I don't think South Africa is succeeding in giving the right responses to our citizens, not only in the Western Cape, all out. And the reason for that is we don't believe in centralism. We think that the centralization of everything in Tshwane under one central government is not working. We believe the opposite is better form of government. It could be a federal kind of state where powers are devolved closest to the people. People should be able to take their own decisions. And many of the ills that we do see today is because policies are formulated from outside. And specifically in the Western Cape, I think the Western Cape is doing very well in terms of the request for devolution of more powers. I think other provinces should follow suit. That's the way to go.
Tertuis Simmers, your party talks about a doomsday coalition between the ANC and the EFF, but you're in a multi-party charter with a party like the Freedom Front who actively supports a Cape independence movement. I saw your campaigns there on the R27 Corne. Where does the Democratic Alliance, if you're with a party, you're in a partnership with a party who says we would actually prefer to be an independent state as a Western Cape, what's the Democratic Alliance's position on the question of the Western Cape?
Well, the DA and the DA Western Cape has been very clear when it comes to the secession of South Africa, of the Western Cape from South Africa, which is we're actually against that. We believe that as the Western Cape government, we show that South Africa can actually work if there's a caring government in position in the other 8 provinces. Now, in terms of the multi-party charter, we respect the characters and the profile of other parties, but what joins all these parties as part of the multi-party charter is that we all believe that the time has come for the ANC to stop national rule. So as much as I disagree with my colleague from the Freedom Front Plus, that is his right, it's his party's right to echo that, but that does not mean that the DA shares the same objectives in the Western Cape. We've been very clear about that.
Very quickly, before we go to a break, Nazir Paulsen, the EFF says it in fact does not have a premier candidate, in fact would want to do away with provinces. Why are you then here this morning representing your party?
No, because I think our policy needs to be aired, and I think voters need to decide. When we dissolve provinces and do away with provincial governments, we'll have more money left for free quality education, free housing, free quality housing, free quality preventative health care. And voters must choose. Do I want to pay a matriculant like Alan Wendy a package of 4 million rand a year, or do I want to fund free education, free quality housing, free health care? Do I want to pay politicians who do nothing but take money from national and hand it over to municipalities? Why can't national government deal with municipalities directly instead of waiting for a province to tell them that there's a problem in this particular municipality? It's quicker for service delivery. We can zoom into problem areas much quicker and make sure that we don't have the service delivery problems that we have in the Western Cape currently, like sewage running down the streets, inadequate infrastructure that can't accommodate the influx of new citizens to the Western Cape, and a government that cannot handle the growth in the province, in the population of the province. So we need a government that's going to be more effective, and it is not the provincial government of the Western Cape.
Nazir Paulsen, thanks so much. We'll take another round after this. Welcome back. We're back with our premier debate here on Good Morning Cape Town. To Tertuis Simmers of the Democratic Alliance. The Employment Equity Commission has raised concern about employment equity here in the Western Cape and the Western Cape provincial government. Coloured people only hold 6.1% and 8.2% of top and senior management positions, respectively. This despite being a majority demographic in this province. Why is the Western Cape government not speaking to employment equity or demographic representativity in the Western Cape government?
Well, first and foremost, it needs to be understood that the DA believes in merit-based appointments, which is why our province is functioning. If you look at the other 8 provinces where stringently the employment equity targets are focused on, that is why they are failing. So we do appointments on merit-based circumstances, and the best people are appointed. And some of those key appointments which we have made over the last few months, I mean, you have the head of provincial treasury, it's a coloured female. We have gone through various other processes where persons of colours have also been appointed, not on the colour of their skin, but based on merit.
Corne Mulder, your thoughts and the proposals from the Freedom Front Plus in a province that is demographically so-called coloured people as majority. Would you adhere to employment equity demographic targets if you were in government?
No, we will not. I think South Africa has moved beyond setting those kind of targets for the simple reason. Yes, we understand affirmative action, we understand all those kind of necessity for many of those things that were there in the past. But I think South Africa has moved beyond that reality. We now need to get the best person for the job, regardless from which community, from which group they come. Yes, in the Western Cape, the effect would be obviously that the demographic reality will play out. There's no doubt about that. And we would like to see that in practice as well. But it should not be the main criteria when you appoint people. I think we should appoint the best person for the job under all circumstances.
Patricia De Lille, you told me on the record in an interview with ENCA at the time of your Cape Town mayorship, you did not want to be Premier of the Western Cape because the real site of service delivery is at a metro or municipal level. There's a great deal of revenue that's generated by a city. And you told me then you were not interested in being the Premier of the Western Cape. What has changed between then and now?
Now, let me first give the other colleagues a lesson in history. The reason why we have the majority of coloured people living in the Western Cape was because of the apartheid laws that declared the Western Cape a coloured preferential area. See, they're not here by choice. They were forced here. The Employment Equity Act make provision for provincial demographics. And it's an insult to say that you just want to decide on merit, as if there are no coloured people with merit in the Western Cape. It's boetjie vir baantjies, how the South Afrikaans sayings go. So it's an insult to say it's only white people that can be appointed on merit. You need to consider merit, yes, fit for purpose. You also need to assist with dealing with the imbalances of the past and correcting that through employment equity. So this is nonsense to just talk about merit.
I will ask you again in the next round what changed your mind. Nazir Paulsen, you want to respond to this question?
Lester, I think in terms of the EFF, we feel that the affirmative action policies and employment equity policies that apply to the African majority should apply equally to coloured people. There's no difference in the oppression of coloureds and Africans. Number two, I think it's an insult for the DA to say that it's based on merit. I mean, Tertius is a matriculant, he's the party leader. Where's the merit in that? It's basically as to how you associate and align with the powers that be. And I think, they are very well-qualified coloured people who leave this province to seek their fortunes elsewhere, both locally and overseas, who have strived in their pursuits. So it's an insult to say that there's no people of colour who are capable of doing the work here. So it's so neither the DA or the Freedom Front Plus are an option for coloured people here, because you will always come second.
We'll continue this debate. We will play some of your voice notes, ask your questions that you have sent in on 0725671567. We'll go straight to the voice note questions asked by our listeners of our political parties. Let's have a listen.
I just love your EFF person on this debate. Keeps referring to Alan Winde as the matriculant, and the matriculant leading up the DA, and the matriculant. Does he imply that everybody who does not have a degree is inadequate and cannot do the job? Typical EFF. Waffle, waffle, waffle. No time for them. Kevin here from Brockenfell. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Nazir, 60 seconds.
Lester, to run a province or a city, one requires skills. If I look at Neisner, for example, where the DA governed for 12 years, then it was taken over by a coalition, and suddenly everything started giving in. Then the Premier says that it's because of the EFF and the ANC coalition and whatever other political parties involved in the coalition, but that is not so. These things take a time to degrade. And if you don't maintain these things, it's going to collapse. As well as if we look at the sewage running down the streets, it's because we never had a government that realized that this city and this province is increasing in growth, and that bulk infrastructure can cater for a certain number of people. And if you don't expand, it's going to collapse under the strain of the increased population.
Nazir, thanks. Let's go to another voice note.
Morning, Lester. Sadia here. My question for those political leaders who are over 65, why are they not retiring? In other industries, people are told at 65 they must go home. They cannot work any longer. So what makes these politicians so special that they can run an old age home in Parliament and think that we the people must just be satisfied with that? They have come to the end of the innings in terms of their working life. So please give the younger generation the time to shine. Thank you.
Thank you, Corne Mulder. To your credit, I wouldn't think you consider 63 years old, but you have been a public representative since 1994. You were 33 years old when you were sworn in as an MP in the National Assembly. I'll ask you, and then also Patricia De Lille, the veterans. Go ahead, Corne.
Let me start off by saying merit means merit. It doesn't mean that you prefer one group above the other. Merit means where you find merit, and we find merit in all communities. There's no doubt about that. Secondly,
except the coloured.
No, there are lots and lots of people with merit in all communities, and we support that. But with regard to the age thing, people sometimes say, yes, you must understand the youth is the future. I agree, but today is the present. The future is still coming. The future is not today. Today is the present. No, I think in the end, there's nothing that can trump experience in terms of you need experience, and how do you get experience in politics? Because you were there. I can assure you, I was there when the new constitution was written, and it's sometimes fascinating to listen to some of the new members who, with all due respect, has got no idea whatsoever. And obviously, there are people that needs to retire. I think the United States, they've got some people there running for president. Some of them may think of retirement, but I can assure you,
Fossils. Fossils.
Thanks, Corne. Patricia?
Thank you, Lester. I will certainly advise the caller to go and read the Constitution. We live in a constitutional democracy, and discrimination on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation is outlawed. And she's certainly entitled to her opinion, but you must look at the track record of what people have been able to achieve in their lifetime. We need an intergenerational mix. We are grooming a lot of young people in the Good Party. They are in charge of everything, because we accept that these are the future generations, but it doesn't mean that because you're a certain age, you become all of a sudden stupid. There are stupid young people too. Thank you.
Can I also answer?
Let's first give Tertius a response to this voice note, please, Mario.
Good morning. CapeTalk, I would like you to ask Mr. Simmers. I've addressed an email to him. We're in council property here in Wetton, Aylesbury Place. And we've got no lights on the grounds or on the balconies. It's been in the voice and still up to date. We're still sitting with no lights. What is he planning to do about it? I know there's a lot of riff-raff here, but we can't be all treated like criminals. We've been staying here for the last 42 years. We've never ever had problems like this. We've got 3 Beacott Road here in Wetton. That's been taken over by thugs and gangsters. This has been going on for months. It's been to JP Smith and everybody like that. And I feel this house should be closed up, but just nothing gets done about it. Thank you.
Tertius?
Well, no, thank you. And I do know and recall the email, and I did respond indicating that that is a privately owned portion of land within the City of Cape Town jurisdiction. Province has certain powers and functions, but similarly, I do need to respect the powers and functions of a competent local government. And I did refer your listener actually to JP Smith and to the MACO member in terms of spatial planning. And as such, I would advise the listener to actually just follow up in that regard. But SAPS, which is a national competency, also has a role here to play, and they've also failed the community with their various complaints. Thank you.
Patricia, according to the Western Cape Department of Health's Burden of Disease report, said that between 2009 and 2015, the dominant cause of early mortality in the Western Cape, particularly when it comes to men, is intentional violence. In other words, crime. What do you intend to do as the Premier of the Western Cape to address issues of violent crime in this province?
Violence in our society, where we resort to wanting to change things or address things to violence, it's almost become a norm. If you look at gender-based violence in our country, just on our women and children. And what we need to do is that, yes, we do need more police, but that alone is not the answer. We need to find the balance and also look at the socio-economic conditions under which people live in overcrowding. The Western Cape in the year 22-23 promised to build 8,000 houses, 8,463 houses. They built just over 5,000. So the socio-economic conditions, and also there are also a lot of mental issues in our communities. But what we need equal number of social workers to match the police that we have, so they can pick up social problems at the early age and help our young people.
Thank you, Patricia. Corne, gambling license is one of the few ways in which provinces can generate revenue. But are you concerned about the steady increase in online gambling portals, also the influence of gambling, particularly on younger people in our country. Your thoughts on the gambling model in which provinces do derive income from?
Yes, so that's exactly the problem. That's why we need independence, that we don't need income only from gambling, that we can be a country in the different respect, but that's in lighter vein. No. Let me say, in terms of gambling, it's a problem. And it's not only gambling, there are all kinds of social ills, I believe, that the intentions may be good, but the effect in the end is not constructive and not positive. I understand that you have to give gambling licenses, and that's part of the process, how these things work. But it also creates a perception among some people that you can get rich without working, that you don't need a job. You can just gamble, and we know all the social ills that go with that. I would not like to see that proliferate, that we've got more and more of that. I really would like us not to do that. We need to go back to basic values where people understand that you have to work, get yourself qualified, get a career, and work for what you earn. Wealth and success just doesn't fall out of a tree, and it also doesn't happen in terms of a little gambling game on social media or on the internet.
Tertius, the listener, says that there's plenty of focus on natural in-migration from other provinces, but listener says there's been massive semigration, wealthy people from mainly Gauteng and KZN to the province. Cities and coastal towns' infrastructure is obviously not coping with sewage, old water pipes, etc. Your thoughts, and what's the plan to address this?
No, indeed, with 150,000 people semigrating from other provinces into the Western Cape, there are key towns which we have seen suffering, and I mean, one of them is Knysna, which is not governed by the Democratic Alliance. It's governed by the PA, ANC, EFF. And, if you have a failure of leadership, and some of them actually have degrees, but they are failing their towns, which is a clear indication that where we have unstable coalition governments at local government level, it does have an impact in terms of the provision of bulk services. But as a province, we also have a key role to play in terms of settlement development, and hence we do have as a provincial government through the Department of Infrastructure, we do seek to assist these municipalities to ensure that the planning of long-term bulk infrastructure investment does occur. And we have seen, successes in terms of Mossel Bay where this is happening, in George where this is happening, and Overstrand where this is happening. But once again, that is where we have a stable local government that works with the provincial government.
But I have to ask you a follow-up. I've had the mayor of the city of Cape Town admit that there has been an oversight over the last few years in a City of Cape Town administration, in a government that has been in the Western Cape for the last 15 years, 18 years, in the City of Cape Town. Why this oversight if the pattern of migration and semigration was expected?
Well, in terms of the City of Cape Town, last year Mayor Jordan Lewis actually announced a 10-year, 120 billion rand infrastructure plan, which incorporates, focusing on bulk infrastructure. The reason why, we need to catch up, and this is focusing from a local government perspective, you have seen the focus on not routine maintenance, because you need to weigh up other social requests and demands versus the need to actually invest properly and effectively in infrastructure. I mean, you're supposed to do 8% of your budget as a municipality. In terms of that, no municipality in the country is actually reaching that objective.
Nazir, as a question directed to you, what is the EFS plan to address homelessness in this province?
Well, Lester, thank you very much, and I think it's very important that the EFF believes that we should have a state construction company that will address the issues of housing, but not just housing, hospitals, schools, road construction. And it's very important that when these guys outsource housing to their friends, like this DA guy,
like when they did in Limpopo with the bridge,
I don't know what this guy is talking about here, but when they outsource housing to their friends. Lester, can you teach this DA person
I am
respect?
going to ask for the next 30 seconds each,
Yes.
Corne, Patricia, Tertius and Nazir. Closing remarks in 30 seconds, please.
Yes, thank you. I think we are in for a very interesting election. It's the most interesting election since 1994. We're going to end up with coalitions on national level as well as in different provinces. And I think it's exciting. It brings change to South Africa. It's time that we get rid of the ANC. They've had their chance. They've made a mess of that.
There's no ANC in the Western Cape.
No, they're trying. You are going to have free ballots in this province, obviously, and we expect you to vote for the same party, the Freedom Front Plus, on all three your ballots.
Patricia De Lille?
Well, this is facts. Where we govern in the Western Cape, 8 out of 10 people are employed. Incorrect. 2 out of 10 people are employed in the Western Cape. Africa fact check. The province is responsible for 78.9% of all jobs in the country in the last 5 years. Verdict misleading. The last one is that where we govern in places like Cape Town, we provide the cleanest water in the country. Verdict incorrect. I want
Thank
to
you very
stop
much, Patricia De Lille. Tertuis Simmers?
Well, Lester, if you ask the people of Theewaterskloof and Huizen where the EFF, ANC, PA and in Theewaterskloof Good are part of a coalition government of destruction, they will understand exactly why there's a need to vote Democratic Alliance on the 29th of May, because they've seen the failure that such a doomsday coalition will bring into the Western Cape and even in the country. Thank you.
And finally, Nazir Paulsen.
Well, Lester, the city of Cape Town is governed by the DA, and the sewage is running down the streets because they don't know how to maintain infrastructure or to build infrastructure or to deal with the influx. So we need to get rid of this party that wants to burn the South African flag.
And that's it. Thanks so much. Really appreciate our political parties in this round. We'll be back up next.